Welcome to the China Mining Club, and today I'm delighted to have George Roach, the CEO of Premier African Minerals, talking to us all. So George, hello and welcome.
Yes, and hi, and thank you very much indeed, Andrew. And I'm delighted to be able to have this forum to be able to talk about Premier African Minerals, as an overview, is an AIM-listed company. We have exploration and some in production projects and interests in the SADC region, the Southern African region generally. This includes in Zimbabwe, Namibia, and in Mozambique. We have some other interests in Africa, and I'll get onto some of that a little bit later. Our principal value drivers at the moment include a big lithium exploration property in Zimbabwe. It's spodumene, it's hard rock, but test work has shown that this has got some great potential in terms of the quality of the spodumene that can be produced, and the petalite for that matter, very low iron and various other characteristics that are associated with it. It includes the RHA Tungsten Project as well in Zimbabwe. That's a fully equipped operating plant. At the moment, we're looking at a bit of additional test work, so we've got it in a hold situation right now until we can get some additional test work done, re-optimization, and then back into production. In addition to that, we've got some other exploration properties in Zimbabwe. And then moving into Mozambique, we've recently acquired a very interesting gold exploration target. The area has got more artisanal workings than I've seen just about anywhere else in Africa. It was quite a sight going there on my first visit very recently. We're mobilizing a team to do a lot of work on that. It's interesting that it's alluvial and eluvial. We haven't identified the overall source of this, but when you see that amount of artisanal working and visible gold, it really gets quite exciting. So that one gets me going. And then the other, of course, is looking for cash generative assets, and that's in Namibia, where we have acquired an initial interest in an operating manganese mine. And we're hoping that as time progresses, we'll see that our interest grows in that. Andrew, just moving on to slide 8, if we may, that gives you a little bit more detail on the RHA Tungsten Project. It's quite an interesting project. Tungsten itself has been difficult, and there have been some examples of just how difficult tungsten can be in the UK and in other parts of the world. But this one is particularly interesting in that we have put in a huge amount of work in defining the underground resource very, very carefully. And we have much more confidence today in what we have. That tends to be borne out by some active interest from off-takers. We have an existing off-take agreement with in place, and we have multiple approaches from other people also wanting to get involved in this project. There seems to be an expectation that tungsten is going to go into short supply in the early part of next year, that this is going to be a strong price driver. And the additional test work that we're looking at for the RHA Tungsten Project is likely to refine the process such that we can get a better grade in our wolframite concentrate and a much, much more efficient operation as well. So there's some good prospects in the near term for wolframite and for this project in particular. Moving on to the next one is our Zulu lithium project. I mentioned that earlier. That's on our slide 9. And I've given a brief overview of this. We have an existing resource that has been declared. We have had initial test work done by Anzaplan in Germany. The results were very good. The indications were that we could get a high-grade spodumene concentrate out of this. It is a project that needs to progress to a feasibility study beyond the scoping study that we've already done. It needs to progress into that. It needs a little bit more drilling, some more definition drilling. And then the other aspect of this is that it is surrounded by an area under application for an exclusive prospecting order, an EPO in Zimbabwe, which we are hoping will be granted fairly soon. And that gives us huge extensions on strike and adds in a few other interesting minerals as well. For example, parts of the Fort Dixon Greenstone belt tend to cross the property as well. So I think that there's some interesting upside to come out of this project in Zimbabwe too. Moving on from that, I want to chat on in regard to the Ochazondo manganese mining operation in Namibia. Premier has acquired an initial interest in this. We own 19% of the company. The operators and owners of Ochazondo have indicated to us that they are extremely keen to further the involvement with Premier. We are looking at that. There are discussions and negotiations underway. There is no definitive agreement yet. When there is, it'll obviously have to be announced and so on. But it's an interesting mine. There is a major upside. And if we have a quick look at our slide 12, it'll give one a very good idea of the magnitude of the resource that we are looking at. There is a strike of over 140 kilometers. It's folded in all sorts of different ways, and there are areas where there are some very high grade there's some very high grade manganese. It has a long history. It has been mined historically and for many, many years. The operation at the moment is running at a fairly low tonnage, and most of that low tonnage is driven by restrictions in the Southern African region related to COVID. We have new logistics channels defined, and these are expected to start opening up in the latter part of this year, early part of next year. And we do expect to see that the utilization of plant, which at the moment is running at about 30% only, and the exports of around about 4,000 ton a month, that is going to triple very quickly. And with additional plant that is already sitting at site, fully paid for, needs installation, that the future of this as a manganese mining operation this is a very bright future. This thing is going to become a lot bigger than it is. Prem has another interesting investment. We hold approximately 5% of a company called Circum Minerals. Circum Minerals is a potash deposit located in the Danakil Depression in Ethiopia. It adjoins another developer that is located in Eritrea, and that will give one a very good idea of market comparables. Circum owns 100% of its project, and it's probably about 3 times the size of its neighbor. This is a project that is under re-evaluation of the original feasibility study for purposes of improving internal rate of return and reducing capex and accelerating the time to production. Circum expects to make some announcements in the coming months that indicate how they are going to bring this into production and how the liquidity events are going to take place. Prem's valuation on its holdings here, around about $6 million at the moment. It's a significant component of our market capitalization, and I think gives a very good idea of the extent to which we are probably underrated and, in my personal opinion, undervalued in the marketplace. If one simply looks at Circum in isolation, covers, as I've said, most of our market cap. Now you start looking at the other projects and the other upside. I think it's a great opportunity at the moment, and I personally have some high hopes for Prem. I may mention in closing, if I may, that Premier is equally aware of other opportunities in precious metals in the southern and other parts of Africa. and Premier continues to look at this. I personally have worked in most of the different African countries. I've obtained licenses and so on for various other companies over the years. And the future of Prem and the future opportunities for Prem, particularly with Prem's wonderful liquidity on AIM, the support it has enjoyed from shareholders over the years, its ability to access capital and finance, all of this to me bodes very well for the future. Thank you very much.
George, that was a great overview. I'll just on those closing points ask you two questions. I mean, the first is, as you say, you're a well-known entrepreneur who's very good at finding quality assets. I mean, clearly, I think it would be fair to say, wouldn't it, that if anybody wanted to get involved with you, alongside you, finding these assets, you'd welcome them with open arms.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, my numbers, my email address, my everything's in the public domain. I've got a bad habit of answering telephones when they ring as well. So yes, indeed.
And my second final question is, you mentioned that you have tremendous liquidity, which is very true. Often your stock trades billions of shares a day almost. And that, again, is something that you'd be more than happy to talk more about, shall we say, and entertain Chinese investors into Premier African Minerals to help you develop the company.
Oh, absolutely. I would welcome that. And I think with some of the commodities, there should be a strong interest, Andrew, from some of your investment base as well. I think it fits well.
And you're very good at helping people also work in difficult countries. I mean, Zimbabwe is not necessarily easy, but actually there's some fantastic mineral resources.
Well, you see, if you look at the top of my head, it's all gone. And I think that that's an indication of part of that.
George, thank you for talking to the China Mining Club. It's been a delight. And if anybody wants, obviously, more from George, as he says, his phone is always on. Thank you, George.
Thanks indeed, Andrew.